John's later. Okay, now before jumping into the topic, so what I know that you have been gone through the basics of constructor, how means what you meant by a constructor, and these things you have been already gone through. I'm expecting that. So can we know, means a quick ask from the people, what do you meant by a constructor, or what is a purpose, or why it is so important to know about the constructors? Yeah, so it's to you, Vijay. So can you tell me what is the importance of a constructor, or what is the purpose of a constructor?
Chris, constructor will be used to call a class in the form of
resume recording. So here we will be talking about the two topics. So one is on method overloading, and the next one we'll talk about the constructors. Okay, so these are the two things which we are going to talk about for today. Now, first I'll talk about the method overloading, because method loading would be one of the part of the constructor in the constructors. I'll let you know where it will come back. So that's where I just wanted to make sure that it works for us. So now, okay, see, once again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm writing a method inside a method. So public void method. Okay, I'll write it as a static method, static void method. Okay, rather than method, I'll use the same add. It would be much more easier so we can understand. God. Okay, so here what we'll have in trying to add, I'll try to add a comma int b. Okay, so now here I'll return the int. Okay, so now here what I'll try to do, I'll try to add an written statement, and the same method which I have been written yesterday, c equal to okay, I need to declare c equal to a plus b. Okay, so a plus b. So this is one method which we have been taken and the written. So now what I'll try to do, I'll copy the same method and I'll try to do this one. In this one, I'll have method d. I'll keep this one as t. Okay, and I'll do one more thing also. So I'll take this, I'll pass this one, and I'll try to have a string class too. A string, and I can keep name. Okay, so here what I'll try to do, once after adding this one, I'll add the name.
Chris, sorry to interrupt. That return variables will be C, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So actually, it's a copy paste typo.
Yes.
And what I wanted to see here is, I wanted to sys out my name. Yes. Here I'll be writing the name. Let's, you need to give me 1 second, please. So if you see here, I have written 3 methods. So here what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to add 2 numbers. And here what I'm trying to do, here I'm trying to add 3 numbers. And if you see here, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to add 3 numbers plus my name also I wanted to add. If you see here, it was not throwing me any error. But if you see, if I copy the same method and I'm keeping it, so it was throwing me an error message in the same class when I have written this method name, the same method with the same number of arguments. It was saying that duplicated method int. So it was saying that, so you shouldn't pass the duplicate methods into a single class. By this, you should understand that in a single, in the same class, we shouldn't have the same method name with the same parameters. So if you have the same name, but it should be different number of parameters. If you see here 2 parameters and it should be 3 parameters, I'll just remove this one. And what is the difference for this method and this method is, I have 2 parameters here and I have 3 parameters over here. So that's the basic difference between this method and this method. Now, if you see the difference between this method, so I have 3. If you see here, I have 3 and here I have 4. But here I have a different parameter. Or else we can do one more thing. So I can remove this int d. So here now I have 3 parameters. Here also I have the 3 parameters, but the data type of the third parameter is different. So what is the understanding means? What do you meant by method overloading? Means it will have the same method name, but different number of parameters, and the same way the different data types. Then this is called method overloading. Any questions around this? Is it clear about the method overloading? So now if I call this particular method, now what it will happen? So add, if I given here, so I'll be adding 250, comma, I'll be adding another 350. So now if I start to execute this one, so now if just we will keep the debugger pointer to see in clear, so how it will go inside that particular method. So now going to the debugger pointer, I'm coming over here. Now my pointer was here. So now what I need to click F5. If you see here, so now as soon as I click this one, it come into this method. So based upon these parameters, Java compiler will understand that to which method it need to jump. So now it jumped here and it taken the 2 parameters. Now it have the int a value as 250, int b value as 350. Now it will have the c value and then it will return back. Here we didn't capture it. So just if you capture, then it will work for us. The same way, if I have written this particular method, now if I have written this method, add now 350, comma 250, comma 450. Now this will be it's okay. So now here I'll be trying to capture this one int result 1 equal to, and the same way I'll take this value and try to print here result equal to this, and here I'll have sys out. So here now I'll try to print this first result, and plus I'll add the same here itself rather than having this one. Now if I execute this one, okay, I'll do debugging to understand it much more clear. So now as soon as I have it, see, I'm going to F5. As this is the first method, it was going here, and then it was going to have the add the values for 250 and the 350. It have the value. Now in the result, if you see 600, it was already stored. Now we need to go for this method. So now if I given the F5, it went into this method, and now by this time itself, the a value have 35, b value have 250, and d value have 450. Now it added up, and the c value was already 735, and it written that value. Now in the result we are seeing, 735 value over here. Now it's this out. Now the same way, now if you see here, if we add another method, so happening for this. Now what I'll try to do, instead of this, I can pass this Chris. So now my result 2, I'll copy this and I'll try to paste it here. Now you see here. So now by seeing this one, now if I execute this once again with the debugging mode, so if I do this, so I'll do F6 because already we have been gone through this method. So now the result value of this one is 600. And if the result one, already it's 735, I'm giving F6. Now I'm going for F5. So now as this based upon the parameters and the data type, immediately it went to the third method, and it tried to add these 2 numbers, and it tried to, the addition of these 2 numbers, I have the value of 285, and then it printed, oh, I given F6. So now if you see here, it printed that, and then it went over here. This is how this particular overloading will work for us. So any questions in this one, guys?
Chris, usually, what is the use case when it will be like when we have the same when we use the same method with different kind of parameters, we use this, or can you give some example or something?
If you see here, this is the original project.
Okay.
In this original project, this is Selenium methods. If you see switch to frame, so this is one of the method which it was given by Selenium itself. So if you see switch to frame, okay, so now we'll go to this method. This is in the class of WebDriver locators. Okay, so this is from Selenium. You know, WebDriver means it's a Selenium. Don't worry, I'll come back there. Now in the same class, I can give it a string. Method name is frame, and another method name is frame where I need to give the frame element.
Okay.
So like this, we do have n number of methods you will be having it.
Okay.
This is another project. So this is also a real-time project. So I'll show you how many methods we will write for the method overloading. You can understand. CCL and rest assured. If you see here, see if you see here, delete the headers and path parameters. If you see here, I have taken maps, and here delete with the header parameters without this one. So this is not a method overloading. Method overloading will have the same name. Get contents with the key. Actually, I'll get back to you tomorrow on this one. So because there will be many more. Means without this one, we will not use our projects at all.
Okay. Fine.
So method overloading is one of the most frequently used in all our projects and in our frameworks.
Okay. Fine, Chris. Yeah. Thanks.
This is about method overloading. So is there any other questions, guys?
Krish, when you're taking example, if you have any of the CHR code example, if you take it, probably will understand.
But one thing, because here not only the CHR team is there, so many of other teams also there. I don't know whether I can show the CHR code.
Okay.
So that means, and even this is we are recording and then we are giving it to means we are keeping in the open forum.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So that would be not recommended. That's where we are not keeping it. But however, if there is any sessions, particularly if I'm doing for CHR, then I'll do that. Okay. Any more questions around this one? Method overloading. Okay. Now
suppose if we have non-static methods and with the same name, and if you want to call in a different class, suppose we have 3 methods and with the same name, we want to call the second method, which are having different type of parameters. So how do we, categorize that we have to call the second one only?
Now it doesn't depends upon whether it's a static or non-static. Now only one particular pointer you need to understand that. So these all means you can't even define if you don't have the different number of parameters or different data types. So always now the same way you will create an object in another class. Okay, I'll show that one too. So now I'll go back here. I'll come here. I'll first comment this code because I need to create an object for this. So I'll do that one first here too. So what's the class name I given? Okay. Now obj dot. This is how I will be calling it. See now, because before it's a static, so that I can able to call directly. But now this is non-static. So that's the reason I created object, and then this is how I have been called. If I execute this program, I was using the shortcuts of Python. So now if you see here, so this is how we'll execute and we'll get the output. Okay.
Just based on the different type of parameters.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Even now, when you go to another class also, now you see, I created another class. Okay. Constructors underscore 1. Okay. Now, what I'll try to do, I'm a little bit lazy, so I just copy this one, but still the result would be the same. Nothing will happen. Because how I can call the non-static objects or non-static members of another class into another class, you know,
With the class.
Class name dot.
non-static variables will call
Sorry,
with the class
have
name.
To, no, no, have to
Creating
create the
object of that class.
By
What
creating
happened,
object.
guys? I told you, when I wake you in the sleep, you need to tell me this. Okay, so non-static variables will be called as we created by the object. Static variables will be called with this the class names. Okay, now if I execute this particular program, that's it. The result is not changed. So if we understand the concept in the same class, even in the other classes also, it would be the same. There is nothing more bigger difference for this one. Okay. Any more questions around this one on the method overloading?
Chris, one question. Actually, we have declared like method like public int add, right? So in one of the thing we add public int add, and we used int a, int b, and string. So like how the compiler will identify that we declared method as int, but we passing string also. So is
see that's a backend mechanism. So now the Java will take care of that one. So now if it is 2 parameters, then it will come to this method. If it is 3 parameters, then it will come to this method. If it is 3 parameters, it will come to this parameter. So now when I have passed the 3 variables, and then it checks with the data type. So now this data type, all these are integers, and this here 2 integers and 1 string. So by default, the compiler will take care during the runtime execution, and then it will assign to the respective methods. So how they have internally implemented that one, obviously we don't know about that.
Okay.
At least I don't know about that.
Yeah, actually my question is here, we added as int add, right? Integer add, right? But in the arguments, we are given int and string. So like that, we can give n number of types of data types, right? Here.
Okay, you are saying that.
Yeah, declared as int. Yeah, but in arguments, yeah.
See now what you're trying to say that. So now here I have 2 ints, Chris, and 1 string is also there. But I'm returning this one as integer.
Yes. Yeah.
So this, what we are trying to say to the compiler is, boss, I'm going to return an integer. One thing, you can't return multiple values in Java. This is one of the thumb rule. You can return only one value. So the one value is int, that's it. If you are trying to return string, then you can change it into string. So now the same thing, I can change it into the string. Now what I'll try to do, instead of, I don't return C, I return the name. That's it. Even if I execute this particular program now, but here there will be an issue because here I need to define it as a string. Okay. So now if I see in this one, if I executed this, see 1335 Chris. So this is how we will be writing it. So now what you need to understand is, what is the return you are trying to do here? So that is the return data type you are going to print over here. Either it's an integer, either it's a string, or whatever it might be. It all depends upon what is the thing which you are going to return over here.
Yeah, got it, Chris. Thank you.
You can have some 1,000 variables like here, but it doesn't matter for the thing. So for the return, you tell me what I'm going to return. Is it integer or what? So that I need to mention over here. So this is what the method overloading concept. Everyone understood? But don't worry, I'll get into much more details when we go for the polymorphism concept. But however, as of now, you need to understand the method overloading, so that if you understand method overloading, I can explain you about the constructor overloading. That's where I thought of explaining you the method overloadings. Any doubts here, guys? All clear? Okay, I'm taking silence as yes, and then I'm proceeding further. Now, what do you meant by constructor? Now, this time we have been discussed about method overloadings and all the things, right? Now, what is a constructor? See,
The first pointer in the constructor is the constructor is a special method. First pointer, it's a method. Excellent. Now for a method, we will be not having any written type for a constructor. So I mean, we can't written anything from the method over for the constructor. And the another important thumb rule is we will be having a default constructor if you don't create a constructor. Default constructor if you don't create a constructor. Means who will create this one? But compiler will take care of this one. So why we need to worry about it? Or by default, Java will be created. See now for this class, did we created any constructor?
No.
Okay, how we will know that we have been created a constructor or not? So
Explicitly we need to.
Constructor will have the same name as class name. So this is what the most important factor the people means why the people will get easily confused. So the class name and the constructor name would be the same. So now let's create one constructor. So now here we it means as of now I'm going to create a no args constructor. No args means no arguments. Everyone will understand that. Public constructor. Oh, it's better. I'll copy. Okay. That's it. Now I created a constructor. Excellent, right? Now what I'll try to do, I'll say that sys out. I'm recording the session, right? By the way. Yeah. It's going on. So now what I'll do, I'll say that I am in default constructor. Okay. And I'll say boss, print me first. I just written whatever I wanted. Now let's execute this and then we'll see. See, actually in main method, I didn't call anything, right? But why this is printing me this?
It got created when we created an object.
See, the first thing you need to understand that if you don't create, means if you explicitly you don't mention the constructor, okay, it will call the default constructor. See, explicitly, if I don't explicitly, if I didn't created a constructor, then it will call the default constructor. But now what had happened, I have created a constructor. So that's the reason it will not call the default, then it will call this one. Now, when it was calling me this particular statement means, I'll do a debugging so that you will understand it very clearly. So now when I go and run this program, oh, sorry. First I'll do this because if it's having errors, it's always hampers me. Okay, now I'll do that. So I'll go to the balls. Okay, now I got into it here. Now what I'm trying to do, I'm doing an F5. So now I need to go for a constructor, right? If you see here, I come to the constructor and I execute. I executed that. I came to here and I'm executing here. That's the reason it was printing me here. From where I went to this constructor? But I mean this line number 26. Why it went to this constructor? Means if you see here on left-hand side, this is the most important thing. Many of the interviews I have been asked this question, but many of the people has been given me the wrong information itself. If you see here, the constructor on the left-hand side, it is in the red color. And on the right hand side, it is in white color because this is a class name. So here we are doing a declaration of an object. So now here, this is a class name. And after this particular pointer, you have been seen, right? New constructor. So then this is really a constructor. So that's the reason if you click on this constructor, see how it went here. This is the constructor, not the class name. The people will say that this is a class name. Guys, I wish and hope you will never ever say this is a class. So if you see here, I'm just clicking this, right? I'm clicking the control button and clicking on it. See, it was taking me to here. This is a constructor. Where the object would be created, in which memory the object would be created?
Memory.
In which memory?
Heap memory.
Guys,
Heap memory.
you shouldn't forget, heap memory, the object will be created. Now, when I was calling this one, when I calling this particular object, when I'm trying to create an object, immediately what it will happen is the new keyword, okay, what it will try to do, it will allocate the memory. It's allocation only. Now, what is the constructor does means constructor will have the class level complete memory information, that how many objects are there, how many methods are there, how many variables are there, how much this particular class requires the space. So this all information was recorded by a constructor. So that's the reason the constructor will say that I need this much of space. I need this much of space. The constructor will give you that particular value. So based upon this particular value, the heap memory means the new keyword will allocate and the constructor will have that particular value over here. So this is how this object will be created. So now if you see here, the class for this object reference, now what is the size of a class? By default, that would be allocated to this object. So now who will give that leverage means the constructor will have the capability, because if you don't know what is a constructor and what is the purpose of a constructor, you will not understand this line at all. If you understand this line, and in Selenium, we have one line, WebDriver equal to new Chrome driver or Firefox. If you understand these two lines, that's enough for you people. You understand Selenium and everything on the flies. So the most important factor is this is a constructor. Now, I'll do one more thing. Okay, so we have been discussed about it, right? I'll create another constructor now. So now this constructor, I'll try to do, okay. See now, if I given the same name, even for the constructor, I can't give the same name. See, it was saying the duplicate method. Now how I need to make the change?
No.
Then I need to give, not initializing.
Sorry,
By declaring the parameters. Okay, now what I'll try to do, I'll take some parameters here. What I'll do, string name. That's the easiest thing which we can do it. Now what we will try to say is, I am in default means now I am in parameterized constructor, and I'll take that particular parameter and my parameter is, I'll write this name. Okay. So now if you see here, this is what we have been done, right? Now I'll execute this, terminate. I'll execute this. Hey, still I'm getting I'm in default constructor, boss print me first. Why it was calling me still that same thing? Then what I need to do is, I need to come here and in this particular constructor, I'll write something as super. So when I have written this super, now I'll try to execute this one. Now you see, now it was saying that I am in parameterized constructor and my parameter is super. See now what it happened, as soon as I given the parameter, so if you click on this one, it was going to this. See now here, when if I written this normal constructor, it was going to the normal constructor. When I was trying to use the parameterized constructor, I clicked on it, it went to the parameterized constructor. So that's the beauty of Java. So it will take off all the things. You don't need to worry about it too much. It will take care of all the things. You don't need to worry about this at all. So now what I'll try to do, I'll keep both the things and let's see. So now I'll create this version as object one. Okay. All these things as of now I'll comment because that's not really required. But as of now, I just wanted to do this. Now what it will happen now? What it will print me if I execute this?
2 times parameterized.
Good. That's it. That's it. It print me because 2 constructors I define the same thing. Now what I'll try to do, I'll add another thing and here 2 and I'll remove the parameter. Now what it will print me?
2 times print parameterized constructor.
The first one.
1 time the first one.
That's it. Now you understood what you meant by a constructor and how the parameterized constructor will work for us. Now what I'll try to do, I'll do one more thing here. If you see here, I'll do that string location and okay, I'll use that. See, string this small. Now what I'll try to do, I'll take, if you see here, I use the same thing, by here itself, it's a overloaded constructor. Overloaded method, how the method will be overloaded. The same way, the constructor also can be overloaded. That's the reason first I explained you method overloading. The same concept here, no parameters. Here 1 parameter, here 3 parameters. Now what I'll try to do here, I'll add a location equal to Tirupati. So now when I have added this, I'll run this, proceed. Now you see here, okay, so here I need to add a name plus location. Okay, came right. Now I execute it. See, now what had happened? So first time here, it was calling me this particular constructor. Second time, what it called the name and location constructor. And third time, it was calling normal no args parameter. So this is what this is called as default constructor, which is a no args constructor, parameterized constructors, and then overloaded or constructor overloading. So this is called constructor overloading. Is it hard, guys? If you see, if you believe it or not, the people will not understand these statements. If you don't understand this one, what is the problem, Chris? What's your problem if I don't understand this one? Means if you see here, I'll just take you to something. Or else I'll do one thing. I'll show you why it is so important for us to understand this one. Where I written this one. Okay, so just give me 1 second, guys. So here I'll show how it is important. I'll just pause the recording. So that's the reason I told that this is very, very important that you need to understand what you meant by a constructor and what are the rules and regulations to create a constructor and what are the different type of the constructors. So which we have been discussed over here, the different types of constructor and how to use the how to access the constructors. So now we created the constructors, right? And how we have been accessing this constructors. You know, I didn't understand this one for many years.
Another point we can add, like initialize the object.
Guys, With the
Non-static.
objects,
Non-static.
that's it. With the objects, I'll be accessing with all the non-static members, non-static methods and non-static variables. Now, either I can call with the obj, or I can call with the obj1 or obj2, because all these three objects has been created in the heap memory with the same memory size, because the constructor is same, right? Because constructor will knows that particular information. For an example, don't consider this at all. Now I have 4 integers defined here. The same question I have been I asked in interviews also. I have 4 variables here. The means we will be having the 4 integers. What is the size of an integer?
4 bytes.
4 bytes. Now what is the size for the 4 integers? 16 bytes. Now the constructor will gives me that when I creating this particular object, for this one I need 16 bytes of space bars, and for this one I need the 16 bytes of space, and this one I need the 16 bytes of space. The memory size is same. So that's the reason with this, any of these particular objects, you can pick up this particular object and then you can do this. And when we have been created any particular object, so you, for creating an object, this is one more thumb line which you need to understand and then remember. Many of the people will forget this one. I'll ask the same question in the interfaces. Now, if you wanted to create an object without, okay, remember once again, without constructor, you can't create an object. Means if you don't have a constructor, you can't create an object. That's it. Very simple. See, now I don't know how much space I need to allocate for you. Then how can I give you, means I can create an object for you. So without a constructor, you can't create an object reference. With the help of a constructor, then only you would be initializing this particular object. Creation of object reference or initialize, means whatever the things, the terminologies you wanted to use. Actually, the right meaning for this one is we are creating an object reference. Okay, this obj is an object reference, creating an object reference with this. Everyone will say the new keyword is to create the, no boss, new keyword, new is a keyword which it helps to allocate the memory in the heap. And constructor will say that this is the space which I required to create in the heap. So that is what talks about the constructor. Okay, so now I'll just give a pause. Means we do have another 7 minutes of time. By default, constructors will be called. See, now I called you for means for an example, I called any VIP for inauguration. First, the black calls and everyone, the Z category people will come and then they'll say, hey, just move, and they will come and they will check everything. Then VIP, come over here. Then the VIP will be coming. Means how the black cats will come and then make everything arranged and then remaining things will come in the back. The same way, whenever I'm calling a particular class, now this is a calling class, right? So this is a class. I'm trying to call this one. When I'm trying to call that one, so the constructor will come. And whatever the initializations, means if the basic purpose of the constructor is, by default it would be called, by default it would be, means the constructor will be called. And if you wanted to do the initializations of any particular variables or anything, so those all initializations will be done within the constructor itself. I can write all the initialization of variables or what you will understand later in the later part of the sessions. So this constructor will come first and then it do the initializations and all the things will be done by this constructor. And later on, the other things will come into the picture and then according to that, it will move further. So the constructor is the first thing it will come when we have been calling a particular class. What is the difference between a constructor and a method means? For an example, if I return this particular constructor and then calling, then it will first default, it executes it. I no need to call the constructor at all. As soon as I created the object, by this, it will be calling. But methods explicitly, it should be called and then it should be executed. When I created the object reference itself, this would be created, right? And methods, later on it will come. So that is what I said, that the explanation, by default, the constructors will be called and initialized. Which constructor I need to call, that is what I was creating over here. And then later on with that particular object reference, you are accessing all your methods. See now in this class, so now if you wanted to see here, the same code, nothing I need to change. Just I need to copy this code and go to the constructor class 2. So now if I go for the constructor class 2, here what I'll try to do, I'll try to paste the same code. That's it. It will work for me now. Now I created a class object, means for this particular class, I created 3 objects and I'm trying to access that particular class objects here. So now if you execute this one here, see, it created the same thing. So now what we are trying to do with the constructors, first we are, while creating the object, we are taking the help of a constructor and then we are creating the object, and whatever the steps are there in that constructor method, it executes all. Now with the help of this particular object reference, we are calling all other methods. So that's the basic difference between a constructor and a method. And the way we call the calling is also different. Okay.
Okay. Have a happy weekend.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Happy
And
Good to have a great day. Yeah. Thanks,
Sure.
Chris. Bye bye.
Sir,
Yeah, Mona.
share my screen, sir.
Yeah, Mona. Just give me 1 second.
Ah.